Were Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl really that bad? It's been over half a year since we got the Generation 4 remakes on the Switch, and at this point I've already completed 3 playthroughs of the game. 2 normal ones, and one that was a Nuzlocke with mods on. The third one was by far my favorite. After doing this playthrough, I uploaded a video about my favorite mods I could find for the game, and titled it, "The Worst Pokemon Game Has Been Saved by Mods." And oh boy, people were not happy. And if you want to be on the receiving end of my egregious clickbait in the future, make sure you hit that sub button if you haven't already. But I'm not the only one who isn't the biggest fan of BDSP. A large portion of the community has voiced their disdain for the titles, with many feeling the game comes off as lazy and unfinished. It doesn't help that this is one of the most beloved regions of all time, so fans were going to be as critical as ever when returning to Sinnoh. So where did things go wrong for what should have been something every Gen 4 fan would love? Let me start by saying, if you like BDSP, if you played through the game 10 times, and you loved every second of it, and you have an Infernape body pillow, I don't care. You can like whatever you want. You can like Sword and Shield, Sun and Moon. You can enjoy getting punched in the face every night before you go to bed, as far as I'm concerned. No amount of criticism or negativity towards the game should influence how you personally view it. I think it's fucking ridiculous that everyone has to have this little disclaimer when they say something that's not so positive, but the amount of "but I like BDSP" comments I got was just miserable. Good for you, homie. Enjoy what you want to enjoy. I also want to say at first, I did not hate BDSP. In fact, I liked it. I played the game a little, early, went all the way through the post game and had fun with my time in the region. I saw that they buffed most of the important fights in the game, like gym leaders and rival battles, and added gym leader rematches. That was super exciting. I could definitely feel the buffs too. Mainline kicked my ass with Drain Punch Big Root Lucario. I even made a video about how the game was harder than the originals. The gameplay was much faster than Gen 4 as well, so for the most part the experience was preserved, which, you know, should be the bare minimum for a remake, I guess. It was exciting and other people were hyped as well. It genuinely seemed like a decent remake. There were some really big glaring issues though in my playthrough that got close to ruining it for me. The first was that the game was shipped unfinished. Much of the game's content was not there on release and you needed to download a later update to obtain these features. Obviously, this was only a problem for people with review copies or the sorry souls with no internet at home who can't download the files, but it was still very off-putting to have a mainline Pokemon game be shipped in such a broken state for pretty much the first time ever. It was also really scary when those reviewers were playing the game and it had that terrible placeholder music. I was very worried that that's what the actual soundtrack was going to sound like because there was just no asterisk on it. The games are also massively buggy, with many glitches still present in it today. There are plenty of videos showing these off if you're interested, but they definitely plague every corner of gameplay. I was also rubbed the wrong way by the loads of really weird design choices on what stays faithful and what doesn't in this game. How come they brought back the Sword and Shield map feature with markers for where to go, but also brought back single-use TMs? Why did they allow you to access your Pokemon boxes from anywhere, but also make it so HMs, including Defog, returned? It just doesn't make any sense. Why not redesign these routes a bit now that everyone has access to all HMs at all times, rather than just make you do shit like this? There's no reason other than to waste your time. Why did they bring in forced experience share but didn't change the level curve of the game at all to balance it? Now everyone is constantly overleveled even if they only do trainer battles that are necessary. It was also disappointing to find out Platinum content is almost completely excluded. Platinum is the main reason people love Gen 4 and is one of the games a lot of people revere as the best of the series. The original Diamond and Pearl are super lacking compared to Platinum, so to leave out all the great content from that game is a super letdown for the Gen 4 remake. There are a few callbacks here and there, but it's just not enough to satiate fans who love that game. Previous remakes have had content from their third titles in the generation, so it's disappointing Platinum had the least representation in this way. Even simple things like making some trainer teams better and route encounters more diverse are not present, which were some of the best parts of Platinum. People are quick to point out that this is a Diamond and Pearl remake and not a Platinum one, but when one of these titles are simply better than the others, why not include the beneficial changes from it? Why not try to be the best version of the game instead of just a more recent one? Being on the Switch meant the multiplayer options for this game could be really dope. Many people remember the Underground and Contest being really cool to play with friends, or even the old school GTS. This was something I was very excited for when originally theorizing what BDSP could have in store for us, but instead of bringing back these features and making them even better with online capability, all of them are worse. The Underground is a cool gimmick for a bit. The overworld encounters are dope, but they just completely gutted the base building part, which was the entire reason the Underground was sick in the first place. Now it's just a place for them to stuff platinum Pokemon instead of in routes. Contests were also turned into the most laughable rhythm game instead of a multi-part showcase for your Pokemon where you can dress them up. What the fuck were they thinking with this? It doesn't even let you pick cool songs from the game to play with. The GTS is completely missing, and its replacement of just Wonder Trading wasn't even available until months after the game came out and no one cared anymore. Very cool. Finally, they brought back the Union Room, which was never really great to begin with. It was just the best we had in 2006. This was also broken and missing features until months down the line when, once again, no one cared anymore because Legends Arceus was already out. Finally, the worst atrocity this game hit me with: affection. The little hearts that show up in the plot armor messages of Joe did more damage because he loves you, and Joe didn't die from that move because he wants to make out later. Constantly showing up in the playthrough made it so my gameplay devolved into just assuming I'll get the RNG checks and win the battle regardless of what happens.
We're just gonna D-pulse. Hopefully maybe get some flinches. Maybe she oh, that was a crit. Oh my god. Now let's get some flinches, you know what I'm saying, Jotters? You know what I'm saying? Just a couple flinches. A critical hit, sure, man. What about a flinch? That was crit. Fucking MGK. Call me a monster, but I'm doing it. Okay, okay. It was a crit. Let's go, MGK. Every fucking attack, something happens.
This even carried me through the Cynthia battle, which should be the hardest fight ever in Pokemon at the time, before Volo dropped. The only time the game feels difficult is maybe the first couple of gyms because you haven't had enough time to build up affection to just take over the rest of the game. But back then, I was a little more okay with affection because the original reason that it was said to occur was that it was tied to walking with your Pokemon. It was reported by early leakers of the games that going to Amity Square turned on the affection mechanic, meaning that if you never went there, you wouldn't have to deal with it. This made it more bearable for me because even though I had done this already, the game could be legitimately hard without affection, so people could just never unlock it in their own playthrough. So in my head, the positives of boss battle changes and gym leader remakes, plus the increased gameplay speed, outweighed the negatives I encountered by at least a little bit. I talked about this in my videos and even recommended the game in my initial review. But later, I realized this isn't how affection worked, and it was just indefinitely enabled. It's actually a byproduct of friendship / happiness in this game for some reason, so walking with your Pokemon just sped up the process to unlocking it, since this raises friendship by a lot. I was really let down. Why decide to make this crazy change in the Gen 4 remakes, the game so many people have looked forward to? This is a mechanic that belongs in a Let's Go game maybe, not here. Why did they parade this game around as a faithful remake only to include such a terrible feature that was nowhere near the originals? This is where my opinion of the game tanked. After this, there was nothing saving it for me. It completely tramples over the chance for the games to be hard, which was one of the big W's it had over the originals. People have tried to say affection is manageable, just stock up on herbs and force feed them to your Pokemon to make them less happy, but they failed to see not only how ridiculous it is to have to micromanage your happiness the entire game just to get the experience that has been offered for decades before this, it's also impossible for some Pokemon like Riolu, Budew, and Eevee who evolve via friendship. A lot of people have said they like the affection mechanic, and that's totally cool, it's just, it should be optional. Like, you know, it always has been. It feels like BDSP just couldn't do anything right even in the areas it was trying to. In the end, Pokemon BDSP was and is a broken, unfinished, glitchy mess that adds almost nothing positive to the original Diamond and Pearl experience, and misses on every great opportunity it had. I legitimately believe it is the worst mainline Pokemon game for these reasons. As crazy as it is to say, Sword and Shield is a much more replayable game because of the Pokemon variety it offers in comparison to Sinnoh, and Sun and Moon is super sluggish, but I at least admire it for trying to shake up the traditional formula with no gyms and a more story-focused adventure. Gen 1 is a buggy fuckfest, but since it started this monumental franchise, I simply can't call it the worst. The only game that hits that level for me, and the only Pokemon game that has truly disappointed me in my 15 years of playing, is Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl.